you guys think Edmen Shabhazyan's corner should have stopped the fight between the second and the third round? We're going to break that down, plus the rest of the amazing card that took place this past Saturday right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to another episode of the Barnhill Brothers Show.
Yo, yo.
I'm Steven. This is Nick Barnhill.
As always.
And today we are going to break... By the way, guys, what do you think about our new additions to the set? We've got a bobblehead, and then I don't even know what you call those up there, Nick. Conor McGregor and George St. Pierre, almost like a Pokemon.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
So yeah, guys, let us know in the comments if you like the new set, what you think we should add to it. We're always trying to evolve and make this set as cool as possible.
Yeah, we have a lot of open space on these walls, so eventually some fan art would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Hint, hint. But yeah, guys, so Nick, what did you think about the fights this weekend? We had Brunson Shabhazyan. Turned out to be a pretty good card.
Great card. Sometimes these cards that are free and they kind of fly under the radar because there's so many other stack cards around them. They don't get the hype that they deserve, but you look at some of the matchups that happened and, you're kind of taken back and you don't realize how good it's going to be. And then it comes out and there's just great performance after great performance. Also, a couple weird things happened. We had a couple fighters faint,
right?
And one of them didn't even make it to the cage, and some people test positive for COVID right before. So it was just a wild night all around.
Very, very wild night. And yeah, shout out to H-Town's own Trevin Giles.
Yeah.
He was the one that fainted. We certainly hope he's okay and has a speedy recovery and can get back in there soon enough.
I've been keeping up on social media, and it seems like he's doing all right. They were going to clear him in Las Vegas and then send him back down to Houston, where he's going to continue to get medical attention and stuff. But I think he's all right. I think just some things went wrong, and all the best moving forward for him. But,
absolutely.
But did you hear JoJo Calderwood? She passed out after the fight.
No, I didn't hear that.
And then Ed Hermans' fight got scrapped because his opponent tested positive for COVID. And
crazy.
What's so crazy is, once Ed Herman got that news, he was kind of angry. Dana said they don't call him short fuse for nothing. He's a kind of short-tempered guy. Trevin Giles' opponent said, bring Ed Herman, since his opponent and my opponent both fell out, let's fight. And Dana actually was going to try to make it happen last second, but he didn't say why. But he goes, Ed Herman was not in the right shape or mindset to fight. Which makes me believe he either went and ate a bunch of food or went and drank some alcohol or did.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did, but he wasn't eligible to
Boy,
fight.
that would have made for an interesting fight. Yeah, the guy's a 6-pack deep, and now you got to hop in the cage and fight a trained killer.
But after you cut weight and do all that stuff that fighters have to do leading up to a fight, and then it gets pulled away from you instantly, the last thing you think is that another fight's going to get pulled, and they're going to ask you to fight somebody completely different. So, you can't really blame him for not being ready very last second.
Absolutely. Well, a fight that didn't get canceled, and I am very thankful for that, was the main event. Let's start right at the top. Yeah. How good did Derek Brunson look? Was this his best performance that you've seen him in recent memory?
It definitely recent memory. He's people always say that being a gatekeeper is like a negative. It has like a negative aura around it, and it kind of I get that point, but he looks so good against all these guys that he's fighting, and he's only always fighting the top guys. And, some people were saying that he's been in there with literally the greatest the middleweight division's ever seen. Edmen Shabhazyan's, they're bringing him up, but he hasn't seen the level of competition. Right. And, we were joking about it on Fight Night. The great Johnny Drama from Entourage said, you might have a couple of pounds on me because Edmen was a little bigger than him, but nothing outweighs experience. And I think the experience and just the tricks and the tools of the trade that Derek Brunson has picked up over the years is what won him this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always love when we can add a Johnny Drama quote to the podcast. But yeah, and this is what I said going into that fight when we did our predictions last week, was that anytime a seasoned veteran like Derek Brunson is so overlooked and such a big underdog in a matchup against somebody who's very good, very promising, shows championship potential, but is still very young and hasn't quite been tested yet, I always, the initial thing that pops into my head is this is just a little bit of overhype. And like I said, I don't think Shabhazyan is a hyped fighter. I think he's a very skilled fighter, but I think to favor him that heavily over a seasoned veteran who, as you said, has been in there with every single buddy that, the who's who of the 185 division and competed and contended with almost all of them. It was a little bit of a slight to Brunson.
Yeah.
I think he went in there with a chip on his shoulder, and he showed that his experience, as Johnny Drama pointed out, did outweigh the youth and a couple of pounds on him.
Yeah. I mean, Shabhazyan looked good in the first round, but and that was one thing. I always, going into this fight, assumed it would be a 5-round because it was the main event after the original main event fell through, but it was a 3-round fight. So I was sitting there with you. We were talking, and one thing I said is, who do you think this being a 3-round fight gives an advantage to? Because I was torn in my mind. I was like, well, Brunson's an explosive fighter, but he's also gone 5 rounds before.
Right.
And Edmen Shabhazyan has never, but he seems to be a slower pace type of guy in comparison to Derek Brunson. So I was torn. I couldn't really figure it out. If you guys could tell me who you think has a better chance at a 3 or 5 round fight, it doesn't really matter now because we saw the outcome. But
yeah, that was interesting. The first thought was Shabhazyan, because he's got, he's kind of that slow burn. He's got great cardio. He's in excellent shape. But, then it was like, well, Brunson's been in some 5-round wars before. Right. But the reality of the matter is 5 rounds weren't necessary. And quite frankly, I don't think whatever that little 30 seconds in the 3rd round was necessary. I think that the fight should have probably been stopped after the 2nd. It was some confusion. I know we were kind of confused because it looked like Herb Dean had called the fight off, but it was right at the bell. So it was like, did he get saved by the bell? Did he not? Mm-hmm. He looked to me like he was clearly out of it when he went back to his corner in between the 2nd and the 3rd. I think as a young guy, he's promising. He's got a lot of good fights ahead of him. To go out there and essentially be a shell of himself and take those extra 5-6 blows from, a monster like Derek Brunson was totally unnecessary. I think his corner probably should have stopped that in between rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, I get that they had him, on the track to being the youngest UFC champion and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, your coach and your corner is there to keep you safe, and that it wasn't his fight. He, at the end of the 2nd round, looked defeated, and you could tell in the little bit of the 3rd round that they had that he was just looking for a way out. And I mean, the way Derek Brunson, I almost called him Derek Lewis. Derek Brunson did a beautiful takedown in the 2nd round with the stopping of the leg, the trip. And then he did the exact same one, but it looked like he did it against a grappling dummy.
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact word.
And that showed me is like he just wants a way out, and he's a fighter. He's tougher than hell, so he's not going to quit on the stool. But that's, in my opinion, where boxing still has something right over the mixed martial arts world. As soon as the corner knows the fighter can't win the fight, they should stop the fight. He didn't need to take that stuff. And yeah, he might not become the youngest UFC champion of all time, which is so hard to do, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be an amazing fighter with an amazing career and still reach the championship someday. But it just wasn't his night.
And who knows, what did that 3rd round cause him longer of a time period between fights? Would he have been able to get back in there sooner and get back on track had he not gone out and sustained those last 5 or 6 blows in the 3rd round? Who knows? But and with very little exception, I think that once the fighter can no longer win and you see the defeat in their eyes, that it's time to call it. The only time I would make an exception to something like that is if I was a cornerman and I knew it was like a Joseph Benavidez situation. This is his last title shot. He's been here 5 times. He's come up short the 4 previous, and he's never going to be here again. Maybe as a coach, you kind of factor that in, give him a chance. But when you have a 22-year-old fighter who is got the sky is the limit for him, he's got a bright future ahead of him. He's clearly not winning tonight.
Right.
Tonight, is a learning lesson, and a lot of times in martial arts, you learn a heck of a lot more from a loss than you do from a win.
Right.
So let's chalk this up as a learning experience. Let's congratulate Derek Brunson, and let's get out of here and call this a night.
Yeah, that's the thing is I wonder mentally and mental health-wise and just for the future of his career, what would be better? His corner calling it a day for him so he doesn't have to quit in the fight. Like he didn't he didn't even put up any competition in the third round. And it almost looked like Derek was just like, just get this guy out of here because this isn't safe. This is not even fair. And or to take the loss and the stoppage the way he took it. I tend to think that it would be better for a younger fighter's mind to have the coaches go, look, it's not your night.
Yeah,
we learned a heck of a lot here, and we're going to come back stronger.
And we're going to figure out how to beat a fighter like Derek Brunson because we lost him. We're going to fill in the gaps of your game that caused this result tonight, and we're going to come back stronger than ever.
He appeared to on social media to have taken the loss well, and obviously it's a sore one to take, and it sucks. But I think Edmen comes back and he's going to look sharp. He's just needs some time off, and it's hard when people think they're invincible, and it's hard not to think that when you're a young fighter that's undefeated, that's just running through everybody. But then you get met with a monster who's been in the game for so long. Yeah, and they show you that there's levels to this thing. And congratulations to Derek Brunson.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one that did, it's going to be exciting to see where Brunson, who they match him up against next, because I think he's obviously not getting a title shot next, but I think he's one more convincing win like that away from another crack at the title. So, do you have anybody to
unlikely opinion? And this is just something that just came to my mind this morning. I was thinking about when I was drinking some coffee. Why doesn't Derek Brunson look at the 205 division with his speed and power and explosive, style? There's, you give up a little bit of speed the bigger you get, and some of those guys in the 205 division, I think, would have their hands full with Derek Brunson and his speed and his power. Yeah. He wouldn't have to cut any weight, and I think. I don't know. 185.
And he's getting older. He's in his late 30s, so cutting weight is going to be harder for him.
But also, he lost to Izzy. He lost to Whitaker. He lost to Silva, even though he a lot of people think he won that fight,
including us.
Yeah, but it's going to be hard because he lost in knockouts to those guys, the top guys, and it's hard once you lose to somebody to get another title shot. But
to make a convincing run to where people want to pay that $70 to watch you because they think that you've got a real chance this time to beat Adesanya.
But look at Darren Till. He was 1-0 before last week, 2 weekends ago's fight with Robert Whitaker. 1-0 in the 85 division. It's like a fresh coat of paint when you go to a new division. And so if Derek Brunson moves up and fights, anybody in the top 10 and 205 and can get the job done, he's now a contender in a new weight division.
Absolutely. And I always, like you said, when you give up a little bit of size, you give up a little bit of strength, but when you're that good of a wrestler, you don't really give up strength because you're so positionally strong. Yeah. I always say that, like, for a wrestler to move up one division is a lot easier than for like a striker to move up one division. Like, for example, like Wonderboy Thompson, if he moved up and had to take on somebody like Romero, he could just get wrestled down, but somebody like Brunson, you're not just going to ragdoll him because he's been in there. He's been in the wrestling rooms with guys bigger than him. He's got that great grip strength. So I always think that for somebody who's wrestling dominant and also has some good punching power, they can step up one weight class, especially in the latter part of their career, get that fresh coat of paint and do well. That was I'm surprised you brought that up, but actually I kind of like that for him. I think that might be a good fit for him.
Yeah, the way he was mixing up the boxing and the striking and the wrestling was really, really great. And he's one of those guys that I think we could just see him do something cool up in that division. While right now there's a lot of unanswered questions there, while 185 is pretty log jammed up there at the top.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's lost to almost all of them. So
that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what he does next. But I think he's got one more. He's 36 years old. He's got one more run at this if he wants to try to get up there in title contention. And it might be best that he give it a crack at 205.
Yeah.
So we talked about that fight. Should it have been stopped in between rounds? There was a fight that didn't need an in between rounds, and that was Jennifer Maia versus JoJo Calderwood. First of all, how freaking good is Jennifer Maia? The women's 125 division just got real exciting all of a sudden.
Yeah, and last week I said, is that Damian Maia's wife or daughter or whatever? I don't know, mother. And I don't think that she is, but her grappling sure looks kind of like his.
Comes with the last name.
Yeah, I guess we all know the Brazilians to be monster grapplers, but her jiu-jitsu looked great, and Calderwood is, she looked so good until she didn't. Right. I think when you get on the ground with somebody who's And even on the feet, Jennifer Maia looked a step ahead. Her speed was there, and she fought a great performance. So.
She was an underdog going into that, albeit kind of a slight underdog. But I said when she came out in the first 30 seconds of the fight, I said, boy, Jennifer Maia has come to win tonight. And that's not that everybody doesn't come to win, but she does not think in her head at all that she's the underdog in this fight. She's walking out there like she's the dominant champion, throwing heavy punches, winning the pummeling and grappling exchanges, and then that finish to cap it all off. She looked really impressive. I mean, she dominated. People were talking about who's going to challenge Valentina Shevchenko, who's going to be the girl that's going to, bring something new to the table where she's otherwise been just so dominant in her division. The only person who seems to be able to contend with her is Amanda Nunes, and that's just because she's the female GOAT, and two, because she's got so much size on her. But is there anyone that's around Valentina's size that can even contend with her? And everybody was starting to say, we think it might be JoJo Calderwood. She's got great boxing, good Muay Thai. She's good everywhere positionally. She's a well-rounded fighter. And then you have somebody like Jennifer Maia come out and just dominate her in all aspects of the fight, does the right thing, calls out the champ, gets an immediate response from Shevchenko saying, let's set it up. I'm intrigued by that. Yeah. And I love this for Valentina because I'm such a Valentina fan. And it sucks because I think she's so dominant that you can't really get an exciting fight for her. She just absolutely destroys these girls. I think I don't think Jennifer Maia is quite ready to defeat Valentina yet, but I do think that makes for an interesting fight where people are going to be like, wow, what's going to happen here? Because, Jennifer Maia probably does have a jiu-jitsu advantage. She probably does have a grappling advantage, even though Valentina's, her everybody knows she's one of the most technical Muay Thai fighters in the world.
Of all time.
Her grappling game has come along, but she's not known for her grappling per se, like how she is her striking. What would happen if she gets in there with this person who's ripping girls' arms off within the first 5 minutes of the fight? So now I'm intrigued to see that. Now I find an exciting fight for Shevchenko. Yeah. So I think this is going to be, I think that's the obvious next match to make, and I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that match. It seems like both fighters signed off on it. The champ wants it. Obviously, the contender wants it, and Jennifer Maia looked at JoJo just like a stepping stone right to the title, and that's what she got. So I'm happy for her. You can't help but feel bad for JoJo because everybody loves her. Even that little bit that they put on ESPN and SportsCenter's Instagram of her doing the quotes of the famous,
Diaz, hysterical.
So cute, so funny. I hope she can get back in the win column in her next fight, and hats off to Jennifer Maia.
For sure. Well, somebody else who got a win this past weekend, and also from Brazil, Vicente Luque. What did you think about his performance? I thought he did an excellent job so he took on a fighter that was much longer than him. Almost drew a blank on his name there, Randy Brown.
Yeah.
And Randy Brown, actually from Jamaica.
Yeah,
Shout out Spanish Town, Rude Boy Randy Brown. Randy was obviously much longer, a lot more rangy, and you could tell right from the beginning his game plan was to put Luque behind the jab and disrupt his timing and his entrances. I think Luque did an excellent job of negating that with those low calf kicks. I thought he was going to snap Brown's leg off for a second. I mean, he was whipping that low calf kick every chance he could get, and it even got him a knock. I don't know if it actually counted as a knockdown or what, but he actually put Brown on the floor with one of those calf kicks, and it just totally disrupted everything that Brown had in his game plan, which ultimately led to a great stoppage finish. But what did you think about that fight and his performance?
Luque is one of those dudes that he doesn't get the respect I think that he deserves from the masses.
Yeah.
But when you go to the back and you talk to the guys, they all go, "Oh, this dude is an absolute monster." He's just so proficient everywhere in mixed martial arts, but especially his striking. He's a technician when it comes to throwing hands, and like you said, Brown was a little bit longer, and a lot of people just. It's kind of one of those things they just brush their hands at when somebody's a taller, lankier, longer fighter. They go, oh, well, he's got the reach advantage, so he's going to use his jab and keep distance. They don't understand how hard it is to actually do that.
Right.
And a lot of people, almost no fighters can utilize range like everybody thinks they can.
Right.
It's much harder to do than people give credit for. And he was doing all right with it, but superior striking always outmatches length and longer limbs and stuff. And Vicente Luque,
he looks as well-rounded as almost anybody that I've seen.
He's number 12, and I can easily see him giving a lot of trouble to a lot of the guys in the top 10. I would like to see somebody with the dominance that we just saw recently in Fight Island, like Khamzat Chimaev, fight somebody like Vicente Luque one day.
Boy, wouldn't that be
That would be a fun fight because, one of them is going to get over on the other. And I think Luque has some good grappling defense. And I think even though we haven't seen Khamzat Chimaev's striking that much, if you go back and look at his highlights from before the UFC, he's got some knockouts. He's got some good boxing, as he calls it.
And the really important thing to note there is that his main sparring partner is Alexander Gustafsson. So there's some footage I saw online of him doing some sparring with Gus.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And Gus is, obviously 2 weight classes, well, now 3 weight classes bigger than Chimaev, much longer, an excellent boxer, one of the best boxers in the game. And if you've got Chimaev sparring against him, you have to think that his boxing capabilities are going to skyrocket in a very short amount of time. So I think that would be really interesting. I would love to see Luque versus Chimaev.
Eventually, that's something that could definitely happen. And I think number 12 on the list is about as high up, in my opinion, as you can go to give fighters you can give to Chimaev. You can't put him in there with some unranked guy next. I think he's just going to bully all those guys, and I think he'll get truly tested in the top 10, but even still, some of those guys are probably going to avoid him or say no when the call comes.
Yep, we know Cowboy won't though. I'd love to see. I say I'd love to, and then I kind of hesitate because I love Cowboy. But Cowboy will fight anybody, and that's why everybody loves him. So maybe he's the right guy to give Chimaev, because if Cowboy beats him, man, that's just what a notch in the cap on Cowboy's career. But if Chimaev is able to get past Cowboy, which my gut tells me that he probably is, then that solidifies him and takes him right straight through to like 1 or 2 more and boom, title shot. But I don't think anybody's raising their hands or signing on the dotted line to fight Chimaev, but I bet Vicente Luque would.
And once again, we find ourselves talking about Chimaev, and we apologize to the fighters on this card, but let's get back to another awesome fight. It was a rematch. Groovy Lando Vannata,
Bobby Green.
Bobby Green. What a fight!
That was fight of the night in my opinion. Yeah. I think Bobby Green did an excellent job correcting the things that resulted in a draw the first time. But that was a slobber knocker. Yeah. That was a great fight. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
I would watch them fight every weekend. That was so much fun.
Yeah, they could do a trilogy, a quadruplet. What do you
There's
call it?
There's only a couple. Your quadruplet. I don't know. We could even see it cinco times.
Yeah.
But I think that was a fun fight. And there was a lot of back and forth with the striking, and it was just a fun fight. Those are the types of fights that I wish wouldn't be exclusive to ESPN Plus and was on ESPN just at random times when people are looking for sports right now. They're looking for entertainment. You put that fight on, and people are going to be entertained. You made some new fans. You could make some new fans for sure. Yeah.
Well, guys, listen. So that's the recap on this past week's fights. Yeah. We're leading up to that trilogy, Stipe and Daniel Cormier. And so we're excited. We're going to be breaking that down, and as always, coming to you guys with our weekly show. And until
before we run off, let's see how many of those we got right and got wrong. I know I was wrong on the main event. I picked Shabhazyan. Yep. You did.
No,
right?
Sorry, I picked Brunson. Yeah. I was right on that.
We both picked JoJo, I think.
Yep.
Mostly because I didn't know who Jennifer Maia is. Now I definitely know. Vicente Luque. We both picked Luque. I think
you picked Green. I picked Vannata.
Yeah. So that was good. And then a couple of the fights fell through. Once again, best of
not
luck.
Quite as good as the weekend prior, but we'll always give our predictions, guys. Absolutely. And we'll always give our recaps. And so check us out. We'll be back next week. Until then, enjoy.
Have a good one. Please like, comment, subscribe. As always, we greatly appreciate it, y'all. Thank you.
Thanks so much.